Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's NRPA webinar, Impact Your Career, Impact Your Community, Become a CPRP. Thank you all for joining us today. Before I turn the program over to our presenters, I have a few housekeeping items. Please join in the discussion with your colleagues during the presentation via the webinar chat box. If you have not already, please share where you're joining us from today. If you have questions for our presenters, feel free to enter them into the Q&A box at any time. Time is scheduled following the presentation for our speakers to address your questions. Within 24 hours after this live event, the webinar recording will be available on NRPA Online Learning. You can check NRPA Online Learning frequently for new professional development offerings. Our next webinar, Calling All NRPA Members, Let's Discuss Summer Camps, is now open for registration. Today's learning objectives are: understand the process to become a certified park and recreation professional, communicate how CPRP certification demonstrates professional competencies and supports growth, and know how to submit the CPRP application with the Spring 2021 promotion. It's my pleasure to welcome today's speakers, Tiffany White and Molly Sullivan. Tiffany is the Recreation Program Coordinator for the City of Arlington, Texas, and Molly is the Certification Manager here at NRPA. We are so excited for them to share their knowledge and on today's webinar. I'll now turn the webinar over to Molly.
Thank you so much, Sharon, and thank you all for joining us for today's webinar, Impact Your Career, Impact Your Community, Become a CPRP. This webinar will be about 30 minutes, but we hope that you'll find it informative. So as Sharon already said, my name is Molly Sullivan. I am the Certification Manager here at the National Recreation and Park Association. Joining me today is Tiffany White, Recreation Program Coordinator for City of Arlington, Texas, and the National Certification Board Chair. Tiffany has graciously offered to share her personal experience with the CPRP a little later in the program. Thank you so much, Tiffany, for joining us today. All right. Sharon, how do I apologize, everyone, how do I switch the slide over?
Just let me know and I will switch it for her.
Thank you so much. I think we always need something a little funky to happen in the beginning. That way we can just break the ice and move forward. Excellent. Well, thank you so much. So today we will, as I said, I'm hoping that this webinar will be pretty informative. We'll go through some of the information on the CPRP as seen here, and then we'll get a chance to talk directly to Tiffany White before we direct our attention to the questions in the chat box. Please feel free, again, to post them at any time, and we will try to address as many as we can in the time allotted to us. Sharon, if you could please switch the slide over. Thank you. The Certified Park and Recreation Professional, or CPRP certification, is the national standard for all parks and recreation professionals who want to be at the forefront of their profession. Certifications assess current knowledge and skills, and the CPRP designation shows that you have met qualifications of education and experience, as well as illustrating a commitment to the profession and an understanding of key concepts in the field through the CPRP examination and continuing education. Next slide, please. I wanted to touch briefly on some of the benefits you as an individual applicant could enjoy through professional certification. Designations add credibility to you as a professional, showing that you have met standards set by the certification and giving you a step up in your career. Employers recognize the CPRP as a reliable way to differentiate the most qualified, up-to-date, and determined job applicants, frequently preferring the CPRP as a job requirement, giving you a career advantage. The CPRP program focuses on practical knowledge and current real-world skills necessary in today's changing park and recreation field, staying current and applicable through the use of a job task survey and an ongoing yearly exam development. Finally, with a well-known certification, you can gain greater respect and recognition as a professional. And with more than 40 years of maintaining a rigorous focus on relevant knowledge, The CPRP program is the most widely known and respected credential in the Parks and Recreation field. Next slide, please. Applying for the CPRP is now easier than ever. So the eligibility requirements needed to qualify cover a broad range of education and work experience. And verification of that eligibility is no longer required with the initial application. The information you see on this screen is available on our website and directly on all initial applications. So you don't need to memorize it here. Next slide. So let's take a look at these general steps to certification. For the first step is to review the eligibility requirements and contact NRPA with any questions or concerns about qualifying for the exam. Please note that if you apply and do not qualify, you are eligible for a full refund of your exam and application fees. So really, what do you have to lose? Step 2 is to complete the initial application, either online or through the mail. Official transcripts and work experience verification forms are not required with the initial application, unless your application is selected for review by our random audit process. The initial application fees are $270 for members and $314 for non-members. Groups of 3 or more applicants may be eligible for discounts when they apply as a group. And we have multiple applications available for group discounts, and this can also provide discounts, additional discounts on study materials. Once you've submitted your application and payment, NRPA will notify you via email of your eligibility. Finally, once you become eligible, you need to sit for the exam within 1 year. So you have 1 year to schedule and take your CPRP examination. We often get questions about retaking the exam. Once you have submitted an initial application, if you fail or need to retake the exam for any reason, you are not required to submit an initial application again. You're not required to submit your eligibility. You only pay an exam-only fee, and then again, you receive 1 year to schedule and retake your exam. Once you pass your exam, you'll be eligible to begin achieving continuing education units to complete your renewal. Any continuing education units received prior to taking and passing your exam are not going to be eligible towards that next renewal cycle. Okay, next slide, please. All right, I know this is why you're all here. Well, actually, I know you're all here for Tiffany, but this is a big part of it. Let's have a quick chat about study materials. So NRPA offers 2 primary study materials to prepare for the CPRP examination: the CPRP 5th edition study guide and the basic learning pack online preparatory bundle. Both materials mimic the same content, but provide it in different learning mediums. If you apply prior to April 30th for the CPRP exam, you will receive a coupon code for a free basic learning pack. So take advantage of this amazing limited time offer. The CPRP basic learning pack includes 5 modules on the 5 core competencies on the exam, as well as a fantastic practice exam, which I believe cycles questions in and out, and you have the opportunity to take it 2 times, which gives you a really good idea about how the exam is formatted and what it's like to take this kind of exam, especially for those of us who have been out of school for a long time. So if anyone has any questions, please feel free to pop them in the box, and I'll be happy to take a look as we move forward. So next slide, please. So you're now ready to apply for the exam. Let's take a moment to discuss some quick test preparation tips. Test anxiety can be a big problem for many of us. However, if you take the time to thoughtfully prepare for the CPRP exam and follow these easy steps, you should be confident in your ability to pass the exam. Now, I can't take credit for a lot of these because actually I had a speaker prepare these for me for our preparatory at conference, who was actually a university professor. So I put a lot of weight behind these preparatory tips. So be prepared and create a study plan. Reviewing sections across multiple days will allow you to stay fresh and actively involved during the study process. Final cram sessions add to your anxiety and don't create long-lasting connections with the material. Prepare the night before so you feel in control the day of the exam and get a good night's sleep. Don't make any big changes to your schedule the night before or the morning of. If you're a coffee drinker, the morning of the exam is definitely not the time to quit. Being well rested can help with your concentration, and physical feelings of exhaustion can exacerbate your nerves. Plan to arrive early at the testing site to avoid feeling rushed and flustered when you arrive. And finally, take a deep breath. Focusing on controlling your breathing can help quell physical feelings of anxiety. Watch the clock and pace yourself. There is a clock available on your test when you go to take it at a testing center. You can flag questions on the exam you are not sure of and return to them before time is up. But don't rush. Read each question fully and be sure to take the time to review each multiple choice answer before selecting one. This can make the difference between a right and wrong answer. If you're like me, I always feel that I need to rush through exams, that I'm going to somehow lose the information that I have studied if I don't get it out fast enough. Obviously that's not how brains work, as it's much better to take your time and read the questions and answers carefully. And then answer each question on the exam. Your score is based on the number of correct questions answered. I'm going to repeat that. Your score is based on the number of correct questions answered, not a percentage. So any unanswered question is an automatic 0. Remember, you're not penalized for guessing. And then finally, be your own cheerleader. Have a positive mental attitude and remind yourself that I can do this. Next slide, please. Now that we have gone through some basics, I want to take some time to talk about the strength behind NRPA certification programs. As with all of NRPA certification programs, the CPRP is administered by NRPA, but it is governed by the CPRP and CPRE Certification Committee and the National Certification Board, or NCB. Each certification has its own governing committee overseen by the National Certification Board. The National Certification Board supports the achievements of NRPA's mission and is dedicated to enhancing and promoting the profession of parks, recreation, and leisure services by providing premier certifications in the industry. They are administered independently of NRPA, and all board members serve in a non-compensated capacity. And today we have the special insight of National Certification Board Chair, Tiffany White. Tiffany, thank you so much for joining us today. I'm going to go to the next slide, please, Taryn. Excellent. So let's start with a little background. Can you tell me a bit about yourself?
Well, hello, everyone, and thank you for joining the webinar. As Molly mentioned, my name is Tiffany White. I am going into my second term as the chair of the National Certification Board, or NCB, as we like to call it. I am a Chicago native, born and raised there, but currently living in the Dallas-Fort Worth area of Texas. And I'd like to give a special shout out to Joe, who's on the webinar with us from the Champaign Park District, which is where I worked in Illinois prior to coming to the Dallas area. So hi. So that's a little bit about me. I'm currently a recreation program coordinator. I'll actually be officially starting that job on Monday with the city of Arlington, Texas. And I'm transitioning from the city of Grand Prairie, Texas, which is a neighboring city.
Awesome, thank you so much. So you have been certified for quite some time. What initially drew you to the certification, and why did you make the decision to maintain it all these years?
So I was certified in 2015. I learned about the certification when I was about to graduate from college at the University of Illinois in about 2011 or 12. At the time, I didn't have the money to pay for the exam because I hadn't gotten a full-time job. So I didn't take it then, but it was a goal of mine that I continued to pursue until I got to a place where I was able to do that. And so as soon as I was able to take that exam, I bought the study pack. I got all of the materials. I signed up during a promotion. So I got, the study guide, the online, all of that stuff. And it was an amazing experience. It really prepared me well for the exam and allowed me to go in with great confidence. And so again, since 2015, I've maintained my certification, and I'm hoping that this year I'll actually move up to the CPRE ranks by taking that exam sometimes here in the summer.
Awesome. Full disclosure, I did not know that you had signed up during a promotion, but that's fantastic. And I'm so glad you're able to share that.
Yes, I'm looking forward to it. I'm actually in a prep course that is being offered through the Illinois Park and Recreation Association. And next week will be our last day for that prep class. So I'm definitely looking forward to the next phase in the certification journey.
Awesome. Yeah, a lot of people actually don't know that some of the state associations and virtually have started offering CPRP preparatory or group study classes. And that's been fairly recent in the past year or so, but I think we've been seeing a lot of success with that. So if anyone is interested and your state association does not offer one, you should reach out to them with interest and see if they get enough interest, they might be ready to share one they're on their own. Sorry. So fantastic. So as you mentioned, this is your second term as the National Certification Board Chair, which is again the governing body of all NRPA certification programs. Can you speak a bit about your choice to join the board and how the CPRP might have factored into this and other professional experiences that you've had?
Sure thing. So right after I got my certification, an email came in through NRPA that they were looking for volunteers for two committees. That was the Job Task Analysis Committee and the National Certification Board. In order for you to apply for those, you had to be a certified CPRP or CPRE. And so that made me really excited. I had just gotten my certification, and then here are two opportunities to help better the field and to put in, all the knowledge that I had gained and to showcase my experience in that certification. And they just kind of dropped in my lap. And so being me, very adventurous, I would say, I went ahead and I applied for both of those, and somebody on both of those committees saw something in me as a new professional or a young professional in the field and somebody who was newly certified, that I would be able to give some great insight into what that process was and to be able to contribute in a meaningful way to the next generation of the tests that would soon come out of, the Job Task Analysis Committee, and then ultimately us on the certification board doing that. And so it has been an amazing time. And if you're considering that, I would definitely say your CPRP opens up a lot of doors that will allow you the opportunity to participate in other opportunities that you may not get if you're not currently certified.
That's fantastic. Yeah. And, for those who don't know, the job analysis survey is run approximately every 5 years, and it allows us to obtain feedback from thousands of professionals in the field to determine the content that's going to be on the exam. So it's really a big deal. And the National Certification Board includes certified professionals across all of NRPA's certification programs, as well as some individuals who hold like citizen and student members aren't required to hold certification. So we try to reach as broad a committee as possible to really represent our CPRPs and all of our certified professionals across NRPA. So my next question for you, Tiffany, is do you have any advice, more advice, for those who are considering becoming certified, and what would you share with them?
My advice is to take advantage of all of the materials that you have at your disposal. If you are considering taking that exam, and right now is a good time for you to register for that, I would say definitely get registered to take that exam. Take advantage of the study guide and the materials that you will gain if you register coming up here soon. It is all very helpful. I know that my learning style requires multiple different ways of retaining information. And if you're a few years removed from school and having to retain information for memorization is something that you'll have to retrain your brain to do, I think that these study tools are definitely going to help get you to where you need to be so that you can be confident when you take that exam and that you'll pass that exam when you go through it. So definitely take advantage of it. And I say go for it. The more you put it off, the less likely you are to take it. So go ahead and get scheduled if you can, and that'll help to jumpstart that studying, and it'll help you really set your focus on what it is you need to get done, so that 2 or 3 years doesn't pass by from this call today to when you actually sit down and take that exam from procrastination or just being fearful of what that might look like.
Fantastic. And my last question for you today is there anything else that you'd like to add before we move on to questions?
I would just say I am super excited that all of you guys have joined us today, that you're interested in this exam process. I think certification is an amazing tool to get us to where we want to be professionally, and it also allows us to contribute to our profession in ways that you may not be able to do otherwise. So again, thank you for being here today, and good luck on your next journey, on this next phase of your journey as you go out for your CPRP, and get that certification done.
Excellent. Well, Tiffany, thank you so much. We really appreciate you taking the time out of your day to share your experience. If you wouldn't mind staying on with us for the next 10 minutes or so in case any questions come up. I have a couple questions already, though most of them will probably be directed towards me. Feel free to jump in at any point. And anybody who has questions directly for Tiffany about her experience or anything else, please feel free to pop them into the chat box and we will be happy to answer them. So we have a little bit of time left. The first question actually is from, I'm going to go ahead and just grab this one because it looks like it's for Tiffany, is from Dennis. And it said, would you be willing to share how beneficial and applicable is the practice test in the study guide? Do you have any feedback on that?
I do. As I said before, that study guide really helped to prepare what you will be facing when you take that exam. So I would say definitely do all of them. So if that's the study guide, along with the video content or that content that you get with that study bundle, definitely use them all, because as Molly said, it is the same information but presented differently, which is what you will see on that exam when those questions come up.
So yeah, and I will say too, I think a big thing is also just familiarizing yourself with like taking the exam and pacing yourself on questions. It also does help with that test anxiety. Like if it's been a while since you've taken a multiple choice question exam, it can definitely help to kind of practice taking a multiple choice question exam. So hopefully that's helpful. Tiffany from Adriana says, Tiffany, how was the time commitment for you when preparing for the exam? Oh, you answered that already. I'm just going to read it out to the group in case anyone missed it. So Tiffany, you said it took you about 2 months to get through everything?
Yes, that is correct. But again, when I took that exam, I was about 4 years out of college, finishing up my master's degree. So I was still pretty much in that mindset of being in school and having to remember some of those things. And so because my degree was directly related to Parks and Recreation, and my master's degree at that time too, it took me about 2 months to really buckle down and go through the study materials and get the things that I needed in order to be successful on that exam.
Great. So yeah, and I will add that Chicago Park District for a long time is one of the highest numbers of CPRPs coming out of there. And they ran an education program. And their recommendation was, depending on your schedule and your commitments, was approximately 90 days of honest preparation before taking the exam. The idea being to schedule your exam at a time in which you know that you can commit to it, but also planning out a study schedule so that, again, you're either not cramming, but you're also not overstudying. There is such a thing as kind of moving into an anxiety cycle of overstudying when you already know the material. So yeah, that's a great question. So a couple other questions I've seen come through the chat box. A couple of questions are regarding to eligibility for the offer. So anyone who applies on or within March 1st, 2021 to April 30th, 2021 is going to be eligible for the promotion. Individuals who have other questions, please feel free, that are more specific to their application, please feel free to reach out to us at the contact information at the end of the slide, at the end of the presentation. Another question that we received is, why is the random audit used to check some people's transcripts, and what's the point of doing that? So again, NRPA administers the program, but the National Certification Board governs the program and makes all of the decisions for our policies and procedures. The random audit was put into place. We used to review the eligibility for every single initial application that came in. So the requirement was to review both official transcripts if you were applying with an associate's degree or higher, or a copy of your high school diploma, and then a completed work experience form by either your employer or previous employer. The National Certification Board determined that it was better to treat professionals as professionals, but to keep the random audit, which is just a small percentage of all initial applications that come through, in order to assure the credibility of the exam. So hopefully that answers your question. Another question from Sarah is, will the CEUs from American for the Arts National Conference go towards maintaining my certification? NRPA accepts any continuing education units received or achieved on or within your certification cycle dates. So for first-time CPRPs, individuals who apply, their certification cycle begins the date that you take and pass your exam and ends a minimum of 2 years later. So the answer is yes, if they offer continuing education units and you take them on or within your certification cycle dates, they will apply. Jake asks, only the number of correct answers looked at the grading, but how many correct answers are needed to get the certification? So currently the CPRP is, I saw some other questions about the exam itself. So I'm just gonna kind of address that all together. The exam itself is a 150 question exam with 125 scored questions. 25 of those questions are pre-test questions being evaluated for future exam use, but are not identified and they are unscored. Out of the 125 questions, currently you need 88 correct questions out of 125 scored questions to pass the exam. That's the minimum passing score. This is subject to change depending on exam development. However, the reason that it changes is because the exam is being consistently reviewed on a yearly basis. And one of the things that they are also reviewing is the exam questions and the difficulty of those questions. If any exam form seems to be more or less difficult, the minimum passing score may change, but will stay within 5 points. So I wouldn't put a lot of emphasis on that because remember, it's a minimum passing score. The maximum passing score would be 125. So with that, that's why we say it's always best if you go through all the questions, read them carefully, answer all of the questions, and don't get hung up on 1 or 2 questions. Remember, 25 of them are pre-test questions being evaluated for future exam use. If one of these questions throws you off, do your best to answer it or flag it and come back to it, but don't let that derail the whole exam for you or create more anxiety over the questions to come. Selena asks about what the exam covers. The exam covers currently 5 core competencies: finance, human resources, operations, programming, and communications, and the job tasks within those. There is an exam content outline listed on the website under the candidate handbook. And then finally, Amanda asks, if your education is not in the P&R field and you have been out of school for 20+ years, how long would you estimate it would take to prepare? So I can't give exact feedback on any individual's eligibility without first reviewing an initial application. However, we do accept past and present work experience, and work experience can be like-minded. It doesn't necessarily have to be directly in park and recreation. If we're unsure, we may ask that you appeal your application to the CPRP and CPRE certification committee, and they will review it as a kind of final decision making on your work experience if we're not sure that it directly applies. Matt asks if the promotion will apply for the ultimate CPRP learning pack. Again, if anyone has specific questions about purchases they've made or anything on their account, please reach out to us directly. However, the answer is that the promotion is not eligible for the ultimate learning pack. It is only available for the CPRP basic learning pack. And we got another question, which is, what is the hierarchy of certificates? So our two professional certification programs are the CPRP and the CPRE. The CPRP is the Certified Park and Recreation Professional, and the CPRE is the Certified Park and Recreation Executive. The Certified Park and Recreation Executive is essentially, as Tiffany mentioned, she's interested in moving to that, in looking into preparing for that exam. The executive certification, the CPRP, is one of the qualifications for that exam. Once you take and pass the CPRE exam, you're no longer CPRP certified. You're just considered CPRE certified and you're required to maintain it. We are actually running another promotion on the CPRE at this time, which offers 25% off the ebook or the management ebook or ebook bundle until April 30th, 2021. If you're interested in that and you're not a CPRP yet, please feel free to reach out to me. There are options for applying and qualifying for both exams at the same time. And yeah, so as Christy Fruitt just asked, can you sign up and take both tests in the same year? Yes, you can. You can apply it for a discounted rate for both the CPRP and CPRE. You do have to qualify for both exams, and you do have to take and pass both exams to become CPRE certified. So even if you take and pass the CPRE, if you haven't passed the CPRP, you won't be certified until you do so. I think that we answered all the questions that came through. Is there anything else before we end today? I don't see anything coming in last minute. So again, our contact information is available here. You're welcome to reach out to us with any questions. Luckily, I think we got through most of them. But if there's anything we need to directly address, we can reach out. We'll write something up and send them out. Sharon, do you want to take over for me? Thank you so much, everyone. I really appreciate your time.
Thanks, everyone, for joining us. If you have any questions, contact Molly or send them now last minute in the chat or the Q&A box, and we will save them and address them as we can.